Welcome! This instructional video is one in a series in which we'll focus on alternative fuels and clean energy fueling products, especially OPW hanging hardware solutions. Hello, my name is Douglas Olenek. I'm the product manager for OPW Clean Energy Fuels. In today's video, we'll discuss acronyms, processes, and some of the advantages and disadvantages of clean energy fueling. We'll also talk about the components used in fueling today's clean energy vehicles. As you may be aware, alternative fuels are becoming more and more popular, and the reason for that is because they have distinct advantages over traditional fossil fuels. Today we're going to discuss three primary types of alternative fuels: CNG, LPG, and LNG, and how they compare and contrast to traditional fossil fuels such as gasoline, ethanol-based gasoline, and diesel and biodiesel. Let's consider alternative fuels and the environment for a moment. Traditional fossil fuels such as gasoline and diesel have large carbon molecules. In fact, diesel has 12 carbon atoms per molecule. If we compare that to a methane molecule, which is the main constituent of natural gas, methane has only one carbon atom. This means that when you're burning natural gas instead of diesel, you're releasing far less carbon dioxide into the environment. We've talked about how carbon dioxide in the environment is a form of pollution. Well, noise is also a pollution. And in fact, natural gas engines not only burn cleaner for the environment, but they're also much quieter. There are several neighborhoods across the United States that have mandated that the waste haulers that service those neighborhoods convert their vehicles to CNG because they're quieter and they're more efficient. And let's not forget about cost. CNG has remained a consistent and steady price over the last decade, unlike traditional fossil fuels, which have a tremendous amount of volatility in their pricing. Your fleet manager and your CFO enjoy the consistent pricing of CNG. It allows them to budget their fuel costs on an annual basis and put that money back into the business where it's most needed. In today's discussion, we'll focus on compressed natural gas, or CNG as it's commonly known. CNG is an alternative fuel that requires some specialized equipment in order to obtain the benefits and handle it safely in order to move it from the utility line into your vehicle. A typical station will be located near a major gas utility line, and this natural gas is at a low pressure, maybe 100 psig. What's required is for that gas to be dried, then compressed, stored, and finally moved into your vehicle as you're ready to fuel. So fueling your vehicle with compressed natural gas requires some specialized equipment. We're all familiar with the typical gasoline fueling system. You have a nozzle, you have a hose to transmit the liquid, you have a breakaway for a safety device, and it connects to a dispenser. This is exactly the same as a clean energy fueling component. You have a dispenser, you have your breakaway, you have your main filling line, and you have your nozzle. Now the nozzle looks different, and it works a little different as well, because the CNG fueling process is a pressurized process, whereas on a conventional fuel like gasoline or diesel, you're filling that vessel in your car through an open vent. A natural gas process requires a tight fill. The nozzle is actually attached to the vehicle, much like you would attach an air hose to your tire. And once the tire reaches the inflation pressure you want, you disconnect. It's the same thing with the CNG system. CNG system, the dispenser pressurizes the hose, begins to fill your empty tank, and as the tank pressure equalizes, the flow stops. The nozzle is then disconnected, and it's returned to the dispenser, ending the fueling process, just exactly like a conventional fueling system. Unlike a traditional conventional fueling station, a CNG station is located near a natural gas pipeline. We tap into the pipeline and we dry the gas prior to compressing it. Sometimes the gas is stored, and sometimes it goes straight into the vehicle. Today we'll discuss two types of natural gas fueling stations. The first type of natural gas fueling station is a fast fill station. This is the one that's most common to the retail market. This type of station is beneficial to a user who wants to bring his vehicle in, have a traditional fueling experience, in 3 to 10 minutes have his vehicle refueled and back on the road. This type of compressed natural gas fueling station requires a relatively large compressor, a significant amount of storage, and a priority panel to distribute the fuel to the various dispensers. Alternately, we have a time fill type situation where it's a hub and spoke arrangement. The drivers of the vehicles leave on their routes every day and they come back to the nest every night. As they park the vehicles overnight, the time fill system is connected to their vehicle and it slowly refuels their vehicles in a 10 to 12 hour period. These types of systems require much smaller compressors, much less storage, if any, and a simplified priority panel to dispense the fuel to each of the vehicles. Both of these types of fueling stations can be combined into a third type of station, where you have fast fill for the retail public or for those drivers that need a quick top off, and a time fill system for the fleets who come home at night and rest their vehicles while they refuel. Each type of CNG filling station, whether it be fast fill, time fill, or a hybrid of the two, has unique advantages. And the station builder will work closely with the client to determine the needs that they currently have and any future needs they may have in servicing their vehicles for economical CNG fueling. We have the typical Type 1 nozzle. We also offer the Type 2 nozzle, often used in time fill or fleet applications. And we've now introduced, for retail fueling applications, a Type 1 nozzle with a lever action that's very familiar, and it gives you that same handshake that you're used to in fueling your conventional fueling vehicle. The traditional Type 1 fueling nozzle has an integrated mechanism which opens and closes the valve to flow the CNG. At the same time, it opens and closes the jaws to connect to the vehicle's receptacle. Unlike a Type 2 valve, which we'll demonstrate shortly. Now, the typical Type 2 nozzle is more of a push-pull arrangement. The latching in the nozzle operation is done by the user by pushing and pulling on the outer cover, but the gas flow is not started until a secondary ball valve is actuated. The way this looks is it simply pushes onto the vehicle receptacle as it latches. Then the user begins the fuel of gas. Once it's complete, the gas is turned off and the nozzle is released and returned to the dispenser. The CNG market, and OPW as well, is interested in making the fueling experience with compressed natural gas as familiar as possible to the typical user. This type of nozzle is also a Type 1 nozzle, but unlike its cousin, the operation of the flow of gas and the latching to the receptacle is handled in one familiar motion. Lifting the handle up, latches onto the vehicle, and begins the flow of gas. Once the vehicle is completely fueled, releasing the latch opens the jaws and vents the nozzle, allowing it to be released from the vehicle's receptacle. So to wrap up, we've talked about several different types of alternative fuels: CNG, propane, and LNG. We've talked about the advantages of compressed natural gas, being better for the environment, being a cleaner gas to burn, and having a quieter engine. We've talked about the various types of nozzles. We've talked about the fueling process itself. So if you have further questions, please don't hesitate to contact us through our website at www.opwglobal.com. And thank you.